Where do we begin?
I think that's the goal there, to be honest. That hockey was phenomenal.
Oh, we're sponsored by, well,
A man can dream,
Wow,
but
Mike.
we're moving on to the second round against the Battle of Alberta. Let's go!
Hey, Bruce, there it is. Bruce, there it was. I mean,
St. Louis decided to just blow up completely in the trade deadline.
I wish it wasn't Adam Fox.
It's two juggernauts just colliding with each other. If he doesn't beat Tampa in the first round, he's out of a job.
Isn't that
What?
weird?
Boom! Welcome back to another episode of Puck and Stuff Podcast. I am your co-host, B-Dog, with my co-host right beside me, T-Dog. How are we doing tonight, T-Dog?
Buddy, I am doing fantastic. You know, a little tired. But you know what? We keep on going, boys. We keep on going. How are you, man?
Oh, we just got to keep on going, my boy. No matter
Yes,
how
sir,
tired
yes, sir,
we
yes,
are,
sir.
we got to grind out that content. And today for you boys, we have another predictions standings episode. But today we're doing the Atlantic Division. Dun, dun, dun. But
Boom, baby.
I think this is going to be one of the most intriguing divisions out of the whole year, to be honest, because there's so much going on, because Toronto got so much additions. Tampa did, Florida, Ottawa, Boston declined. Detroit looks promising. Well, they say that every year, but then there's Montreal just chilling at the bottom. Buffalo looks interesting. And I'm super excited to talk about this. So let's just get into this. But before we start this episode is sponsored by, well, a man can dream.
A man can dream that. I don't know. What can a man dream for?
That way
Did we get going on this predictions? Hey, boys.
Maybe someone actually sponsors this episode, so we can't say that anymore.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice.
Well, I think we should definitely just get right into this, starting off with the Atlantic Division predictions. And I think I'll go right at it. And here is my number 8 for the Atlantic. The Montreal Canadiens. At number 7, we have the Detroit Red Wings. At number 6, we have the Boston Bruins. At number 5, we have the Buffalo Sabres. At number 4, we have the Ottawa Senators. Number 3, we have the Florida Panthers. At number 2, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning. And number 1, the Mr. Moneybags Tree Living Toronto Maple Leafs at number 1. T-Dog, I would love to hear your list.
You know, I am glad that this one's much different from mine. Because the past 2 predictions we've done for the other divisions been pretty similar, and this one, not so much. A little bit not. So, you know, I think you're more optimistic on some teams than others that I am more optimistic of, if that kind of makes sense, what I'm kind of putting down.
Yeah.
And there could be various reasons. I have a feeling a lot of this plays because of the drastic offseason changes with certain teams, for 1, and 2, injuries, and 3, acquisitions. I think those 3 are kind of, I'm guessing, are what are heavily playing into your prediction there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
After
for
this
sure,
offseason.
for sure.
Oh,
But yeah, you want me to get right into mine?
damn
For
right.
sure. Well, my number 8 spot, it will be the Montreal Canadiens. My number 7 spot, the Ottawa Senators. The number 6 spot, the Detroit Red Wings. Number 5 spot, Florida Panthers. Number 4 spot, Boston Bruins. This one, you're gonna. Number 3, the Buffalo Sabres, baby. Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Number
Okay,
2,
keep going.
Tampa Bay, and number 1, the Toronto Argonauts. Yeah, Argonauts. Yeah. We'll say that. But the Maple Leafs will be number 1 there. So a little different from yours.
Okay,
I'm
so we
excited to get
got
into this.
our number 8 and our 1 and 2 are correct, are the same, but everything else in there is complete mix. So
Yeah, 100%.
I think since you and I have the same number 8 as Montreal, I think we'll both have a discussion about this on why we think Montreal is going to be at the bottom of the division. And it's kind of a no-brainer. They're obviously in a rebuild still. The team is starting to make progress, and their prospects are finally starting to develop and grow in their system really well. But it won't be enough to be competitive or a contender in this division. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen until you have some of those teams start to really decline. But this is your opportunity to get some really good draft picks out of this little bit of tanking, and you guys could look like a really compelling team. But yeah, you need to do some work first. So that's why mine's at 8.
Yeah, like similar teams we've talked about and other predictions who are in the bottom seeds. You have pieces, you have assets. Time to just build up on them. You're in a rebuild. That's all you are, and you know for a fact. And all the fans know this. So just enjoy the season while you have. I think that they'll prove. I think they'll improve, and I think they will have a lot of fun this season. It's nice that you understand your core in Suzuki, Caulfield, but you would like players like Kotkaniemi to make a presence, per se. I think we've been kind of waiting on that. But they have been drafting well. Let's see. I think Slavkovsky needs time to develop as well. And I think once he develops, he's going to become a stud. I like Monkembo. I think he's a decent goalie. It's just in most teams, he's probably a 1B situation.
Yeah.
And so that's something to think about. Yeah, a lot that needs to be changed, but all in time. So I think Canadiens fans would also agree. Nothing too promising that's going to happen this season, but it'll be a fun team to watch. Sure enough, though, and that's what matters. And yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Okay, number 7. Who is your number 7 again?
I chose Detroit.
Why Detroit?
Okay, so they did add the addition of Alex DeBrincat, and I think it will actually kind of spark up their confidence in the team again a lot here, because again, he's a great player, and you could actually, there was even sayings that he was bugged being a second line forward behind Brady Tkachuk. So that could be a big reason why he moved to Detroit to be the first line winger that they've really needed over the last few years. He got a big, nice extension. But I know that just because a player as highly skilled as Alex DeBrincat shows up in 1 year, it doesn't instantly change in 1 year. I know it doesn't, because look at Huberdeau. Obviously came off 115-point season, joins Calgary for 1 year. We thought he was going to drop at least maybe 90, 80. No, he dropped straight 50s, and it was disappointing. But honestly, Detroit, again, is making the strides to be in good contending and good competition in this division, but I don't think they're there yet. I just don't think they're making the right changes for sure. And that's why I even said during the Patrick Kane talk, I was like, maybe I have to change my prediction up a bit. But so with Detroit, I think it's still a process of getting every prospect to their potential and understanding the system that Detroit wants to. I think the Yzer plan will still work perfectly, but you got to give it time. I don't think it will fix in 1 year. So that's why they're 7.
All right. I had Detroit at 6, and reason being, the addition of DeBrincat is phenomenal and going to help out that top 3 outstandingly, and I think Larkin is going to very much enjoy that as well. I just feel that the young players still need more time to develop, all in good time. And I don't think they did enough to really catch my eye and making a drastic change. So I think they're going to probably be in a similar position where they were last year. And like you said, DeBrincat maybe just take some time to get into that system. And if not, I mean, it worked out well. It's just, I don't think there's much to be expected from Detroit in the sense of doing a playoff push. And if they are to, it has to be early. And if not, I think you kind of kiss those hopes goodbye by early December. That's what I see it.
I mean,
similar to Ottawa here. So I put Ottawa at 7 over Detroit, but I think they're in a similar position with that. Ottawa, they lose to DeBrincat, but they have Vladimir Tarasenko in return. I think if they make a playoff push, Korpisalo will be heavily important to that. And yeah, but again, same thing. Young players need some more time to develop. Same with Stützle, same with Jake Sanderson, who got that massive contract, which I think we will see pay off pretty soon. Thomas Chabot is a stud, but same. I think there's more potential there as well to be to be how it happened. Blah 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 blah. But yeah, so to me, Detroit and Ottawa are pretty much the same. I just see that there's just better teams out in this division, and I don't think there was. I just don't think it's the right time. And if a push is to happen, it has to be early, and if not, kiss it goodbye. That's how I see it. So, not saying that these two teams are in bad positions. I'm just saying that I just don't think it's the year, and soon enough, it'll flip around.
Yeah, I bet it will. So
this year.
Yeah, not this year, sadly enough. But I think when we go to my number 6, I did say the Boston Bruins. And that is a big decline from what probably you thought they would decline to. But I'm like, well, we look at their center situation, and obviously there's no star center there. And Pavel Zacha is not really looking like a first line center that could play with Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak. Sure, this team is still loaded with talent on other sides, especially on the defensive side with Charlie McAvoy. And then you look at their goaltending with Ullmark, and you still have Swayman back there, and they still look really good. But I think without that center play there, it's could look really ugly for Boston this upcoming season. So do they maybe change that up and before the trade deadline? Sure, maybe even before the season. Calgary's still maybe there, but I think realistically they could be. The decline has started in Boston. There's no way they pull off first in the division. No way they pull off a historic season like they just did. I don't see it. I don't.
It's hard to top off something that fantastic. Like everything was going right that season.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything was.
Exactly. So that's why I sadly had to bring them down to 6. I thought about Buffalo as well in this scenario. And I'm like, damn, there's Buffalo, there's Ottawa, Detroit just got a little bit better. And then there's the top 3 that I had of Florida, Tampa, Toronto, and they're deadly. So there's a lot of options, but I think Boston, lands at 6 for me.
Cool. So number 5, you want me to go?
Yeah.
So I had Florida. And I think injuries are key to this, although this might change a little bit because they're going to get Tkachuk back by the start of the season. But I think Montour is still injured and a few other defensemen. I think they're just going to be hurting from that finals run. And that's going to affect them at the start of the season. They might be able to play a little bit of catch up at the end. But again, I think it'll be important for this division to have strong early starts to the season, so that you don't have to worry about chasing for points come the end of it. Yeah. And Florida, to me, it's not that they were lucky last season. It's just I find runs like that really cost you the next season because of injuries and momentum. Maybe is the word, but it's funny because you'd think. But here's an example: Dallas. How did Dallas do after their bubble run, right?
I think they dropped either to like 5th or 6th.
Right, so a little bit of a struggle of a decline. There's always a little bit of that Stanley Cup Finals hangover. Not even just Cup win hangover, but I even find some sort of a Finals appearance hangover. So I think that Florida will be kind of in that position. But I could be wrong, and I'm okay if I'm wrong with that. But yeah, that's kind of how I see it.
Okay, so we jump to my number 5, and we have the Buffalo Sabres. And I'm very shocked they were higher on your list than they were mine, because I even looked at Buffalo like, okay, they really could jump to a 3rd or a 4th spot in this division. If everything perfectly went their way, they could be a top 3 spot, 100% in this division. But knowing Buffalo, they're at my number 5, and I'm not gonna lie.
Is it because of how the Bills have been playing? Is it just kind of that
Josh Allen is maybe getting a Madden cursed?
Is that one of those Buffalo? What happens if Buffalo stays in Buffalo kind of thing? It just happens all around. Yeah.
It could possibly be that, but when I actually look at Buffalo. And I thought about this when I was doing my listing, and I thought about, okay, for goaltender, they're probably putting Devon Levi this year in net, and he showed a lot of potential at the end of the season because they threw him in for a few games. And we even look at their defense. Darlene and Owen Power are probably going to have breakout seasons potentially this year. So if that even happens with one of them, oh my God, that's going to be a deadly defense looking in Buffalo. And you even look at Tage Thompson, the season he just had, he could probably bounce back and maybe get up to 80 or 90 points, be another scoring leader, and that would be amazing for Buffalo. But again, like I said, a lot has to go right for Buffalo to be top 3 in the division. So I think the best spot right now for them is 5. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I see your point.
Yeah.
I'll kind of get into why I kind of picked them at 3. I'm a little more optimistic for sure than you are, per se. But of course, we'll get into that. Okay. So number 4.
Yeah.
I'll let you have the floor, man.
4 of mine was Ottawa.
Okay. So we're a little different on Ottawa. Jeez. But hey, maybe it's the Korpisalo optimism, man. I don't blame you.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
After that series
Unwell,
against
man.
LA, man, or Edmonton.
Yeah, who is your 4 again?
So my 4 was Boston.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I would love to hear.
Okay, cool. So for me, it's they're gonna decline, and it's gonna be a heavy decline. And a heavy decline could literally mean 90 points because 130 points is darn hard to get. You know what I mean? So already you're gonna have a heavy decline. And no way of going around it. Losing Krejci and Bergeron to retirement is just a boom right to the Achilles, man. That is gonna suck. There's gonna be a lot of you're losing not just chemistry, you're losing a little leadership in the room. So we'll see what happens with that too. But how I see it is this Boston team, the players on this team understand what they need to do to play hockey, to win hockey games.
Get new jerseys.
Right? So yeah, exactly. So it's the centennial season. Come on.
Yeah, I mean,
they gotta do it. They
look pretty mint in my opinion.
Yeah. But remember, they still have a tandem in Ulmerk and Swayman, at least for this year. So, right, the goalies could goalie and win games solely on that. So say that happens. And again, these players know what it needs to do to take a win. And of course, trade deadline could become something that helps them out as well if they're in a decent position at that point. But I put them at 4 though. So I'm a little like because maybe if they make playoffs, it's wild card. But if not, I could see them not making it either.
Yeah,
I see it as Nashville-esque in the sense of they're there, but they're not. I see signs of this is the Boston team we know, but also signs of it's that decline time. I think it'd be nice to maybe do a retool, but that's kind of tough, especially in the fact that the prospect pool is a little lacking. Because they all grew up and became superstars, right? But remember, I should also mention they still have McAvoy. They still have Pasternak. Like that's the thing. It's not like this team I think is going to be absolute. There's no way they can't be crap. That's impossible. It's just losing Bergeron is going to be such a slap in the Achilles, and we're going to really see how amazing of a player he was. Like this dude has to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Honest to goodness, that's how 100%. Good he was. Like if not for Ovechkin and Crosby per se, I think he would be talked about so much more.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of saying it's risky. That's why I thought it was kind of risky putting Boston at 6 here. But looking at the other teams, I'm like, I really could see them perform a lot better than Boston could this season. So I think I'll jump to my number 4, and I said the Ottawa Senators.
Mm-hmm.
So T-Dog and I obviously have different opinions on Ottawa because he put them at 7 and I put them at 4. So
it's just because last year I was so optimistic and I was wrong. So I feel that it's going to be a similar key note. It's going to be a similar storyline this year.
Oh, I totally see that for sure. But when I even said last year, I didn't think Ottawa was going to make playoffs. I thought Boston would. Now I think this is the year it finally switches and Ottawa makes playoffs and Boston, it doesn't make playoffs for once. So my reasoning for Ottawa is obviously when you look at that core, they just signed their main guys to their main long contracts. 100%. You started with Thomas Chabot, you went Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk, and then Josh Sanderson. Like you just signed your main core guys that you want to build around. And I think Korpisalo, being your starting goaltender is a big upgrade from because Talbot dealt with a lot of injuries last year, and Philip
Yeah, he's
Gustafson.
just in decline. It's the sad part. Like I love Talbot. It's just it can't be it, you know?
Yeah, that's what kind of bugged me about like, oh, thank God they didn't pick him for playoffs because their goaltending situation didn't work.
But
So
you know what's crazy is think about Philip Gustafson.
I know that's the thing I was just
Like
about to get to too.
that sucks.
I know because obviously he didn't work with Ottawa, but as soon as he made the switch over to Minnesota, he showed his potential and it was amazing during that playoff run. Sadly, one round, but still, it was something to build off of. So I think Korpisalo performed like stellar performance with LA, especially in that first round playoffs against Edmonton last year. And I think that kind of showed what he could do in a starting role, especially during playoffs. And I think Otto really needs that because they're starting to switch over to, oh, we should be a true contender in this division. You have the pieces. Now, I think this is one of your few years of, oh, we need to make playoffs to at least show we're a contender, especially when you have Claude Giroux on one more year. So you got a lot of thinking about if you don't do well this season, for sure.
No, for
I
sure.
think they will. I think they will succeed.
It seems like where our opinions differ is that I believe that their time isn't now, soon, but you believe that they start to make a step this year.
Yeah.
So it's really just that timeline difference, which no, I respect it, and I could see that happening. Again, I don't know.
It's tough.
At the
It's
end of the
just a
day, I
prediction.
don't. If I was to put a bet on it, I just have to bet them not doing how I expected them to do last year. So
Yeah.
so we move on to number 3 on the list here. I had Buffalo. Who did you have again?
I had Florida.
I had Florida.
Yeah.
Why Florida?
Why Florida? Okay, so obviously when we looked at Florida, they did go to the Stanley Cup Finals and kind of got ripped apart by Vegas a little bit, which obviously it makes sense why that would kind of bolster their confidence a little bit. But I think at the same time, no one expected them to make that run, and they still made it to the finals. So at the same time, it could be a big confidence booster. So I think realistically why Florida's at 3 is because they did bring a lot of their pieces back. They had to get rid of Anthony Duclair for probably cap reasons, which kind of hurt in my opinion. But at the same time, I think your team forwards wise looks very deadly, especially Matthew Tkachuk. He's going to come back healthy next season and probably have a 100-point year. God, as a Flames fan, that still kills me. But talking about Florida still, I think realistically, the biggest thing about this is why I have them at number 3 is because you need a breakout year from Spencer Knight next year. 100% needed because he's been a backup for the last 2 years now behind Bobrovsky. And Bobrovsky doesn't realistically show his goalie potential during the regular season. For some reason, it's during playoffs, which is what you saw last year before the finals. So I think
it's very streaky. Have a great season and a bad season. Last year was a great season, so we'll see about next year, right?
Exactly. So I think the reasoning for number 3 is you need Spencer Knight to have a breakout season to prove that he will be the next starter for Florida and keep this team competitive. But if he doesn't work out, you're probably looking at why number 5 for you. So
yeah, for sure.
Why Buffalo at number 3?
Number 3, if there is a year, I'm just looking at this list right now, and if there is a year for Buffalo to make that jump, I think it's this year.
Ooh.
Because think of everyone below them. Boston, right, in decline. You would say Florida with a bit of injuries, right? So that could affect them as well. Detroit and Ottawa, right? A few acquisitions, but maybe not yet right there to make a big splash. And of course, Montreal is not really in this conversation per se. But why not Florida number 3? Seriously, if everything goes right, like you said previously, if Thompson has a great season, so does Cousins. Maybe someone like Paterka has a breakout year, right? Think of it, Darlene and Power. They're going to be a powerhouse, haha, pun intended, soon. And it could be this year that you see that. Devin Levi. Now, what if Devin Levi is what he is advertised? There are pieces that if it all comes together, geez, this team could be an absolute. Oh, man, they'd be good. They'd be really, really, really good. Depth players like Talk, right? You have leadership there too. This team is close. They're there, and I think they can make the jump here this year just because a lot of the teams in this division kind of are having their own personal problems. So I think Buffalo could take advantage of it. And I hope so, because I'd love to see Buffalo make the playoffs. I really would.
I mean, you're starting to stir me a little bit with Buffalo here, but I think it's kind of funny because my team for jumping this year's Ottawa, but your team for this year's Buffalo. So that's actually kind of funny.
Yeah, no, for sure, right? All they gotta do now is bring back the Saberheads full time.
Yeah, they better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, or another Buffalo Slug. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Or the
We jump to number 2. We both had the same number 2 and the same number 1, so we'll both just jump in the discussion at this. We chose the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I think it's pretty obvious because this is one of the top teams in the East for a couple of years now. They're looking for a third cup to complete the dynasty. Colorado took it away from them. Toronto took it away from them last year in the second round. So is it possible that they do it this year? Maybe. We've seen it before, but again, I think Tampa at 2 makes sense. They're still a juggernaut team with Stamkos, Vasilevsky in net. Victor Hedman is still, I wouldn't say top 10 anymore. I would say he maybe dropped to like top 8 defensemen for sure.
Like one of the most underrated goal scorers in the league in Braden Point, who scores on average 40, 50 goals a season.
Exactly. And Kucherov is obviously one of the best right wingers in the league still. And he had a great production season last year. So this team fully healthy, it makes sense to put him at 2. So
for sure, right? And they're locking in all their depth players too. Brandon Hagel, right?
Yeah.
As one example. So that's good. Tampa is a team that I feel like a lot of us are going to sleep on just because there's so many more exciting teams. We've seen the whole Tampa story. So let's just, push it away, focus on other teams. But I don't think we should because I think Tampa Bay, I mean, if they're hungry, man, they could just come right out of the gate and they could take that number 1 spot in the Atlantic. It's very possible.
Really good.
So, yeah, I have a lot of high praise for Tampa Bay. And I really do think when they make playoffs again, I think it's going to be a little different this time around. I think, I think they're trying to hunt that cup number 3 there. Well, I guess cup number 4 technically, but you know what I mean. 3 in this kind of era of their hockey club. And, with a coop, I was going to say about a coop like John Kocher, with a coach like John Cooper, there we go. With a coach like John Cooper, it's very much possible. Everything about this team is just solid. It's a winning equation. That's what this team is. That's what I see.
Definitely.
Yeah, especially when they have the cap on their side. So.
Yeah, I mean,
or Bettman, yeah.
I mean, Bettman or the cap, it could be both. But I think we jump to our final spot. The Toronto Maple Leafs are number 1 in our division, shockingly enough. But when you look at what they added, what they really did with this team this offseason, it kind of makes sense to put them at number 1.
But isn't it amazing how we're always so high praise on them in the regular season, but then come playoffs, different title, I'd say, of the YouTube video. You know what I mean? I think that's hilarious. But I mean, yeah, it's true. The acquisitions with Toronto, Max Domi, Tyler Bertuzzi, right there. Tyler Bertuzzi could sauce you another 30, 35 goals.
Yeah.
Right? Domi played well with Dallas. And if he can get back to Chicago form, wow, what a steal. Definitely. So John Klingberg as well. Right? Not too much of the risk reward ratio ain't that crazy, but I think Klingberg is still a solid defenseman, and a change of scenery could very much help him here. Yeah. So there's a lot to be excited for if you are a Leafs fan, and why not?
But us Flames fans know the best of when Brad Treliving loads up at the off season. They look kind of shaky on and off all season long, and then we enter playoffs with high expectations. And guess what? First round boot. Toronto, you're used to it. You better keep getting used to it because you got Brad Treliving as your GM. So, I mean, well, again, we'll see what happens. This is just predictions after all.
Yeah. But for sure, Toronto's going to be a great team in the regular season.
Oh yeah, I think that's
So much
why
scoring
we put 'em down.
ability. To me, the defense, like, I love the assets they have, but at the end of the day, maybe it's just because a little bit of that bottom pairings are aging.
Yeah.
But again, Morgan Riley, absolute stud, right? And then John Klingenberg addition is great. Uh, all that fun stuff. And Samsonov, he can hold his own.
Yeah.
And that's what you need. You need him to hold his own, and he can. So I think he could win a few games by himself, but I don't think they need to. But they have a lot of scoring. Now they haven't signed Nylander. Say they don't. I mean, he still's got the contract for this year, but let's just say maybe someone like Nylander gets traded. Do your thoughts change on this team?
Definitely for sure, because that's a big piece to lose.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think
Losing
if
40
Leafs-
goals, maybe.
Yeah, literally. If the Leafs are smart, you try getting off of the Tavares contract so you can sign Nylander, in my opinion. But we'll have to see, because it looks like he's going into the season without a new contract. So I guess we'll find out. And hey, guys, those are our Atlantic predictions for the standings. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment, and please subscribe as always. We love the support you guys give, and we couldn't ask for any more. D-Dog, take it away.
Alrighty, like B-Dog said, thank you very much for listening, watching, however you are consuming this content. If you did like it, smash that like button and leave a comment down below. Comment question of the day: what are your guys' list for this division? This one actually, I could say there's a lot of, not controversy, but there's a lot of room for discussion.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of open-ended for the top three, I'd say top three, top four, maybe even five, but at the end of the day, just see how it works, because maybe luck has a lot to play with it. That might be the way of the Atlantic Division for this season. But hey, I guess we'll have to wait and see when hockey starts up in October. But hey, guys, just want you guys to know that you guys are awesome. Thank you for all the support, and we'll keep on making some good content. And hey, remember to keep on rocking in the free world. Have a good one.
Peace.